Hey, everybody watching. So we're at a really fun space. Rob Nelson, Roundtable Media, anchor Roundtable, and I'm with two really amazing guys in a really amazing space and amazing conference. Marc LoPresti, Jon Najarian, have many hats, no pun intended.
Yep.
The Zombie Collective, two Roundtable channel partners. But what we're really here to talk about is not what we do, but what we're seeing and how cool it is. And we're at the NFT LA conference that truly is going to be the marker for all conferences in this space. Josh Krieger and his team. What an amazing, right?
Yeah. Right.
We go to
of
conferences.
NFT, also a roundtable.
Yeah, also
channel.
a Roundtable channel, right? We go
Thank
to
you,
conferences
Josh.
all the time, right? All of us do, right? Mm-hmm. This was different. I'm not just saying because I'm here. I mean, it was different. It was fun.
yeah.
It was smart. It was provocative.
Yeah.
The energy was crazy, and the ideas were off the charts.
Yeah, you open up with Mark Cuban. How can you miss, right? And for him to have, make an announcement of a brand new show that's coming out that was able to be done like that instead of traditional film and television taking months, maybe even years to go from idea to script to production. That was pretty amazing too. Yeah. There's so much in this space, Rob.
You know, and that's a great way to look at it. You know, I listened to them, and when the creator of Entourage and Charlie Sheen, one of the stars, came out in the middle of that thing and started talking. One, it was that cool surprise moment. And, you know, they're all joining up Fireside. Mark Cuban's invested in that as a different platform. But what struck me, because we're talking about disruptive things that are happening here, what struck me was these guys are celebs. They're big names. They can make anything. You know, Doug, he can make anything. HBO put him on a platform.
Right.
And yet he's sitting here going, this is truly different. As you said, John, 4 months I could make whatever I wanted. We put this thing, nobody told us what to do. There were no 20 executives lined up. I've been in this business, 20 people have to approve a yes or a no. Yep. That's disruptive alone. Forget about the platform. And that, to me, is exciting, what you can do with that kind of a platform for content.
Rob, there's absolutely no doubt. And that is just an incredible example of the power of blockchain and the power of NFTs. I mean, a lot of people think about NFTs just as art, right? Mm-hmm. Traditional two-dimensional art. And there's plenty of that, and that's great. But when you think about the extensions of that, having the ability to use this technology to disintermediate the traditional studio oligopoly that exists here in Hollywood, right? To enable the artists to frankly get paid more, to control their content, to control the means of distribution. Digital streaming is how most people these days consume their entertainment, right? Right. People aren't sitting in front of you think about kids like my daughter's age, they watch everything here, and the TV is almost never on in the house, right? So that just shows what the power is of digital streaming, and that nexus of blockchain, NFTs, digital streaming, content marketing. It's absolutely incredible.
And Mark, Mila Kunis.
Yeah.
Obviously Mila and her husband Ashton Kutcher, pretty much cutting edge
for
almost anything in Hollywood. And in particular, she and Ashton are really, diving deep into the NFT space. I saw today that Sly Stallone is doing, Sly NFTs or something like that.
Another connection to Josh Com, Roundtable channel partner with Bad Crypto Network.
I mean, just incredible. And I think the people that are looking at it aren't just looking at it to make a quick buck. I mean, we've talked about, the fear of missing out, and you got to buy a Bored Ape or Bored Ape Yacht Club or whatever. There are so many more applications that are going to be hugely successful. And as you say, disruptors.
Yeah.
I mean, Mark and I follow disruptors. We've got a show that's all about disruptors on the Roundtable. And that's truly disruptive because, think of the music rights. Whether it's a Taylor Swift or Garth Brooks or whomever. Think of how much early in their career they basically had to give up in order to get to where they are. And instead, with the blockchain now and NFTs and so forth, they could be participating the whole way through.
It's not even just what they gave up to the studios and the labels. It's what they missed out on through piracy and other things, because music is an incredibly difficult thing to control in terms of when it's played, how it's played, and things of that nature. If you put it on blockchain, and you deliver music through NFTs. Our friends at the Kings of Leon last year were the first in the industry to release an album exclusively on NFTs. That's going to ensure that those guys get paid every single time one of those songs airs, because it's on and transacted over the blockchain, which is immutable, unchangeable, and automatic in terms of how those transactions get processed. Absolute game changer for the music industry, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and you talk about listening to you, and my first thought is, and it happened to me all week here, part of this dialogue is bringing this to people who will never actually have to say the words immutable. NFT, blockchain, MetaMask. I mean, at some level, adoption is, and we're looking at sports, we're looking at art, we're looking at I think disruption in the whole entertainment industry, right?
Absolutely.
We're gaming. There's, you know, but I think, you know, going back to the idea, I did an early streaming show, TV.com, one of the first streaming platforms. And people are like, who's going to watch you? Who's going to watch? Why don't people want to watch on like a phone or whatever, right? The idea that this TV was what we watched, right? And I've heard that story shared otherwise, like, right? And people are like, oh, why are they going to watch over here now? Well, because we're entering a different space where once it's easy enough, right, everyone's going to just nobody thinks twice about watching something on your phone. The whole airplane's everybody watching on their phones. What's going to move us? Yeah. And that's been a discussion here. What's going to move us to where people don't have to say these words? They never have to say the word fungible, like which 1 out of 1,000 people can tell you what it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you make a great point, Rob. You think about like airlines like American that have taken the screens off the planes.
Yep,
right?
They're not even there on most of the
They're
planes.
not there anymore because they are leaning into that market behavior of everybody looking on their smart device, primarily their phone. So, but okay, so you ask a pretty good and very good and a very direct question. What is going to accelerate adoption, right? So it's not just the tech nerds that are talking about things being immutable and non-fungible and on the ERC 17A, 24B, Solana contract and all of that.
See, I'm already lost.
And that was mostly stream of consciousness. And we love it from an intellectual perspective, but certainly, you know, what has to happen for mass adoption? And what has to happen for mass adoption, and it's happening, by the way. It's not that there's some breakthrough splitting the atom that's going to happen is, one is consumer behavior, which is already happening, right? We are already, as you say, used to consuming content on our smart devices. In fact, we turn, people of almost all generations now are turning to their phone for news updates, to figure out what's going on in the world. They're consuming content that was originally posted either on TikTok or Instagram that's then reposted. They're not even realizing the origin of that content, right? And I think it's also going to be further advancements in technology that make cross-platform interoperability more simple, more ubiquitous, right? So I don't necessarily just have to consume on Hulu, or now, because that's a thing people don't like. I have to have a Hulu account. I have to have a Roku account.
Or for that matter, you guys talking before I came up here, you don't need to necessarily have a Discord channel for your NFTs or a MetaMask wallet for your NFTs, right? I mean, right now, or go to OpenSea, right? That's the same thing, right? Not just interoperability of platforms, but ease of access points.
Yeah. I mean, look at the first digital watches. Think of how many times you had to touch the sides of that watch, and to set the thing was a nightmare and all that kind of stuff. But it was cool, and people liked them. But there were so many steps that now, with an Apple Watch or whatever digital watch you might use, Garmin, it's simple. Right out of the box, it just works. That kind of ease of use is what Marc's addressing that is happening right now. And I'd point out, for instance, that Art Buchwald, when he wrote Coming to America, the movie that ended up being Coming to America that got, done by somebody else, Eddie Murphy.
Does that mean we have to do Good Morning, My Neighbor? No. That was the movie.
Good morning,
my neighbor.
Well, imagine that, though, that the accounting in Hollywood has always been suspect. That's the prime example, because as many people as saw that movie, it never made any money, right? At least in the lawsuit, it never made any money. The same thing with these artists. The reason Slash and his band with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators Slash is into these NFTs and so forth too, because utility. I mean, if you get that NFT, Rob, and Slash's NFT, if it had, for instance, backstage pass for some of the rare versions of that NFT. If it had merchandise, either free or discounted merch from Slash and these things. There are so many ways they can get deeper interaction with their fan base with an NFT than just a paper or even a QR code on a phone. Those are great for getting in fast and easy to a concert, but it doesn't give you anything. All of a sudden, with that NFT, you could have all of this and know when he's coming before it's announced to the world, because he can interact with these fans.
Yeah, and is it that to me, again, is where we're at this amazing conference. Another shout out to Josh Krieger, NFT LA, what he's done pulling this together and his team. Really amazing. But one of the things I noticed, like I moderated a sports panel here, was the kind of thing you're talking about, John, and a question that I had was, what makes what this space does is not just mimic a Web 2.0 space and just create it somewhere else. And it doesn't just create ownership, which is a huge part of what people talk in the Web 3, right? But it is all about taking what we now consider, John, you and I have talked about this, traditional finance, crypto. Crypto's not going to replace traditional finance. It's going to build on it and enhance things traditional finance already does, and then create new things, right? We're looking at the same thing here, right? Where it's not just this is not a layer on top of something. This is a way to take what already exists and enhance that and create things you never imagined. So on the sports panel, these, someone from, DraftKings and someone from Fan Control Football, they're talking about how they're taking the user experience, like you mentioned, John, to a whole another level and creating things we may not have even thought about. Like in sports, sure, you can have fan control football. Could people actually form some kind of a DAO and buy a football team and start a football league of real players? 10 years from now, it's actually rivaling the NFL. Yeah. But it's I don't know, that's crazy reach. But,
It's actually not 10 years from now, Rob, and I hate to ever disagree with you, but it's now. So when you look at the esports marketplace, the esports marketplace has already easily eclipsed the NFL plus the NBA plus the NHL in terms of viewership and even in terms of revenue. Last year, there was an international esports competition. I think it was out of South Korea. And I don't know if I remember the exact number of people, John, but it was something like 60 million people from around the world participating in this same esports competition. So how is that relevant to what we're talking about in terms of tech disruption and NFTs? The way that it relates to the broader conversation is what you are now seeing, the evolution of these technologies where esports plus NFTs, plus I'm going to use the M word when I talk about the metaverse for a second, are all coming together, and smart tech disruptors are spending a lot of time and money investing in technologies and platforms that are going to be part of that homogenization of those consumer engagement experiences into a single utility. So what does that mean? I can buy an NFT, and there are folks that are doing it. Some of them were here. We met with some of the guys, and I won't name names and give unpaid endorsements, but some of them are here where you can actually buy an NFT. That NFT is delivered in augmented reality, right, which is accessible through web-based AR on my phone. I don't need an app. I don't need Google Glasses, and I don't need to put a big thing contraption on my head. And I can then take that NFT avatar into a gameplay experience, okay, in a metaverse type of platform, play with other players around the world in real time, play to earn additional crypto,
stake,
power-ups, things of that nature. That's where all this is headed, and the smart money, something that John likes to talk about all the time, is making big bets on that. Look, guys, Mark Zuckerberg last year, Facebook, $10 billion, right?
That's how much they spent last year
on metaverse initiatives, and yet you can't ignore it.
So to that point, are we essentially taking what is now? Let's use gaming and sports for a second. If I'm gaming right now, I can get in a game. I have my name. I have who I am. Right. The gaming experience isn't an augmented reality for most people. Right. But the step you're talking about is merely I'm bringing my avatar in versus now I'm just sitting with my headphones on, have my name, right? In sports, are we seeing, and you played professional sports, right? Are we, because I look at these big use cases, it's not like a small use case, they're like huge areas. We talked about entertainment. This is going to change the nature of how the entertainment industry works and how content creators work and own and create their power. Are we going to see that in the sports space, where else are we going to see it? Because we are going to have to see something very different than what we're in early stages, right?
Yes.
We're in 1996 of like Web 1/Web 2. I mean, people 10 years from now will talk about certain things that, you know, that we haven't even thought of, but that will be mainstream and basic, and the stuff we're talking about will seem like so old school. And yet it may be common, but it'll be old school. It'll be like, of course.
I'd say the biggest thing, Rob, is how directly the athletes, the actors, the production people will be able to interact with their fans. How directly they'll be able to do that. Imagine, again, right now, they basically screen a movie for people, and then, you know, depending on the audience reaction, they might change a scene, change an ending of a movie or whatever. With an NFT-like experience, they could be doing that as they're making that movie.
Great
Again,
point.
with people that they know are going to be going and spending money to see that movie.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
10x.
Yeah.
Because you guys were old enough to remember choose your own adventure, right? Right. This is
Sure.
what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
choose your own, all of it.
They've
as your
already made
community's
movies where you've had alternative endings, right? Obviously, there are many possibilities in that space, but I think getting the fans closer to the actual people that they, you know, that they love watching in a movie, that the athlete that they love watching over here at the Crypto.com Center, former Staples Center, whether it's the Lakers or whomever, those athletes, for instance, are going to be a much closer tied to their fan base, which will mean that at the end of their playing career, they'll already have a massive base that they can do a whole variety of things with. Rather than just having, okay, my career's over. Now what do I do? I'm 33 years old and I'm done with my pro career.
Right.
What do I do now? I have to start the next part of my life. Instead, I've got 400,000 or 4 million people that love what I do and are basically saying, I'd really love to see Rob in this action movie.
I'm up. I'm down.
That'd be good. That'd be a good one.
You know, but it's interesting what you're talking about because, you know, we're at NFT LA and we're in LA Convention Center right next, you know, part of the Crypto.com arena. And I remember leaving here day before yesterday and walking literally 100, 200 feet, and there were people going into crypto, what do they call it now?
Crypto.com.
Crypto.com arena to see the Clippers play.
Cha-ching.
And I was like, in my head, I'm thinking, will there be a time where this merges together, where some people could go to see the Clippers, but I could be having not just watching it on TV, having a much more different kind of engagement experience, literally 100 yards away or 10,000 miles away. But it just struck me as funny coming out of this, walking past that.
And Rob, that's part of the reason what you're getting at, and excellent points here, but what you're getting at, part of like some of the folks you had on your panels yesterday, you know, FanDuel and DraftKings, what are these guys in sports betting doing at an NFT conference? I'm going to tell you what they're doing. They know that homogenization, that coming together, esports, blockchain, NFT, online betting, you're going to be able to experience that Clippers game in your living room on an airplane 35,000 feet over Singapore or on a boat somewhere off the Maldives, watching, consuming, betting, interacting, in-game betting, all on one platform. That's where this is all headed, right? And there is some interoperability challenges. There is some tech that's being worked on. And what's interesting about that is it's almost less about technology challenges and more about bringing down these moats, right, that a lot of these competitors from a perspective of trying to do a land grab here. So we'll see. But the other thing I want to mention is, you know, what you were talking about before brings up two really important points. One, this technology puts the power in the hands of the content creators, not the record labels, not the movie studios, not the TV broadcast networks. It puts the power in the hand of the creators. The other thing that it does from a customer acquisition perspective, instead of in the old days when I was working out here in LA as a lawyer doing film production stuff way back when, putting up a billboard on Sunset and hoping that that billboard for Rob's next action movie is going to attract the people that want to see Rob's next action movie as compared to a rom-com or a documentary. Now, we know exactly who our consumers are, right? Because of their how they interact with us through social channels, through Discord, through their engagement. We know so much about the consumer. We know so much about the fan that the cost of acquisition of those eyeballs has never been more precise, direct, and efficient, which is also going to enable the independent creators to make more money, right?
That's a really good point. And I did, by the way, have a billboard when I had my talk show on Fox. And I would see the billboard in other cities. But it's true because it's cool, but it's a terrible way to advertise.
Terrible.
Random people would see me on the street and be like, "Is that you on the thing?" But people I wanted to see, you're right, it's completely haphazard. And when you say ownership, you know, what this is for me a really interesting part of this space because people go, "Well, isn't that what already happened? Like everybody was able to become a content creator, right, in Web 2. Well, so the internet was also free. People remember. It's a free thing, except who can get it for free, right? Nobody can get it for free because you got to pay somebody to get the free thing. Well, right now, anyone can make content, but the reality is smaller content creators don't have the ability to really own and monetize very easily unless they get lucky in a super crowded space, because still the platforms want you to have enough viewers or enough audience to make it worth bringing money on, right? So advertisers on. So we're not really in a space where anyone can make something, but you really need, right, and that's what this changes. You know what I'm getting at? That this changes the idea that all of us can make a show, but nobody watched and we're making no money, so it's really useless.
Well, you know, at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is using this incredible technology to put the power in the hands of the creators, make it possible for them to determine their own destiny, engage more directly with their fans, and produce, create, and distribute really killer content in a way that was never before possible. That's really what this is all about, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's sports, whether it's shows, TV, video, movies, short form documentaries. The platform's ubiquitous, right? It's about content creation, distribution, and fan engagement in ways that were never previously possible.
Okay, final question.
All right.
Our final. No, this is like
lightning
the quick
round.
one. A lightning round
do
with
it.
one question. Single biggest space you think will change, will accelerate and alter the speed of mass adoption? Single biggest content.
I'm going to start off with what Mark Cuban was talking about with Fireside, because I think the direct, the ability to bypass all of those gatekeepers, the ability for artists and production folks to be able to basically say, here's what we want to do. Let's just get this thing done. I think that is going to be a game changer, a true disruptor in this space. Not just Mark Cuban, but Mila Kunis, Ashton Kutcher. I mean, all of these folks that are developing content that we consume on our devices, I think that will be much faster. It won't be a 5-year lead time to get a script approved and then get it through with all the, like we said, gatekeepers and finance and all the rest. There are ways to get around that much faster and get something out while it's still hot, whatever that might be, whether it's a TV show or whether it's a movie.
Yeah. Web 3.0. It's an easy answer, right? And why is that? We are still operating on a Web 2.0 internet that is not decentralized. It is controlled by Facebook. It is controlled by Amazon. It is controlled by these companies that have oligopolies and, of course, then have the ability to determine what we say. And you have the ability to get canceled and your Twitter account canceled or your Instagram account canceled or your YouTube account canceled, right? Because what you are talking about, what your content reflects, does not necessarily reflect the views of the management of that Web 2.0 oligopoly. So the ultimate manifest destiny of all of this incredible tech that we're talking about that's putting power in the hands of the content creators cannot happen in its ultimate incarnation in its ultimate decentralized incarnation until we get to Web 3.0. And that means it's not Facebook, it's not Amazon, controlling what we see, and Google controlling what we see and what we do on the internet. Because if you think they don't, you're smoking something.
Yeah, that's a good point. And mine is, I think that defining spaces will be sports, which, I think in
No
Web
doubt.
2 moved both technology, because covering sports, I think, moved production,
No
and
doubt.
also moved, how people experience the space. So I think that, helped create that. Everyone wanted to watch sports online. Music, I think, will be huge. But I also think an area, and I don't know how, that will really drive this adoption is going to be as social media and the social media universe moves from 2 to 3 to that
Absolutely.
interactivity. Because we all use social media. So once we need to use it into this other space, I think that drives massive onboarding and ramping up to where this becomes second nature.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, look, you could do a podcast discussion on this topic alone when it comes to, changing the matrix, changing the paradigm of how these major tech monoliths. I mean, think about the power of Amazon, right? About how companies like that are either going to lean into Web 3.0 and be part of the disruption and be part of the decentralization, or if there's going to have to be, dare I say, at a blockchain NFT conference, some government intervention from an antitrust, perspective, because I think a lot of people in the industry would say, there is a monopoly that's shared among those 2 or 3 big members of the FANG stocks, as John likes to say on CNBC. So to me, it's a long answer to a short question. It's the Web 3.0 advent and advancement that's going to really unlock the power of everything that we're talking about. I just don't know exactly how we're going to get there because of those incumbent monopolies that currently control how we interact on the internet.
Hey, anybody who says they know how is lying to you. Because the truth is, a lot of people think they have some idea, and some of them are going to be right. And here at NFTLA, we're seeing some of that.
Yeah.
On Roundtable, we're seeing people
That's right.
who have, there's a lot of amazing minds in the space, in our space, and what we're doing that are thinking and creating. But none of us really know.
Yeah.
Nobody has the blueprint. Mark Zuckerberg didn't know Facebook was going to be as big as Facebook was.
No.
And now it's Meta, because you're right about that. They realize they have to shift to it, right? So, except maybe John, who has a crystal ball in his back pocket.
Just follow the smart money, right?
That's right, exactly.
Wherever that big money is going, though, is where we're going to be going. Not that the smart money can always dictate exactly where we'll end up, but if they're pushing in one direction, Mark already mentioned Mark Zuckerberg and $10 billion deep into this, that might not be the winner.
No.
And
No,
in
that's
fact,
the
I would
point.
say-
That's the
yeah,
point.
I would say
Wow.
that they are not getting it.
Yeah.
That Facebook is
But that's
not
the
getting it.
point. Meta, Facebook's Meta.
Yeah.
Sure, they can put all the money in. Again, that's somebody sitting at this conference, somebody coming on a roundtable, somebody's going to, who nobody knows about right now, is going to be one of the people who
No doubt.
changes it, and they're the Mark Zuckerberg of 10 years from now.
That's why we talk about market disruptors, right? The Roundtable show. That's why John and I and some of our colleagues have spent so much of our professional career as TradFi guys. I will admit we're DeFi, TradFi turned DeFi, or a little bit of both, I guess, these days. That's why we spent so much of our professional career as investors in finance investing in these early stage businesses that we believe will be market disruptors. Because I'll tell you what, Rob, the 10B that Zuck spent last year of Facebook's money, God knows that he had it in the couch cushions. The 10B he spent last year, the biggest criticism from the street was, what'd you spend it on, Zuck? And you know what he spent it on? Trying to figure it the hell out. There's not a metaverse plan per se that's in stone from Facebook, Meta. And if you think there is, again, you're smoking something or somebody's lying to you. So you're absolutely right. The next market disruptor, the next innovator, the next entrepreneur that's going to help figure out some of these challenges that we talked about, particularly the advent of Web 3.0, could very well be here in the NFTLA audience. That's part of why we're here.
Yeah. So what an amazing roundtable. A roundtable at the NFT LA conference, which again is going to be the benchmark for NFT
no doubt.
conferences. And I'm not just saying that because we're here. It's going to be the benchmark for conferences
They did
in
a
this space going
fantastic
forward.
job. Brought in art, brought in all of the innovators and disruptors.
Yeah.
It was a fabulous 3 days.
It was great, and we still have the last day of it here. So Jon, Marc, I'm Rob. This has been a great roundtable conversation.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks for listening.